Welcome to Flippening, the first and original podcast for full-time, professional, and institutional crypto investors. I'm your host, Clay Collins. Each week we discuss the cryptocurrency economy, new investment strategies for maximizing returns, and stories from the front lines of financial disruption. Go to flippening.com to join our newsletter for cryptocurrency investors and find out just why this podcast is called Flippening.
Clay Collins is the CEO of Nomics. All opinions expressed by Clay and podcast guests are solely their own opinion and do not reflect the opinion of Nomics or any other company. This podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only and should not be relied upon as the basis for investment decisions.
Hey, this is Clay, and I am doing a non-scripted version of this podcast because we are currently in intermission. The reason why we're in intermission is because Nomics, the company that produces the Flippening podcast, is currently fundraising for our Series A. We're doing a $3 million round. We're very pleased to announce that $2 million of that first $3 million has been committed by a lead investor who is, by the way, one of my favorite investors of all time. And I'm really excited about being able to announce a bit about this down the road. The reason why I can even talk about this is because we filed Form D with the SEC under Rule 506C, which means that I can generally solicit. Of course, I am not soliciting here, but the reason we filed this paperwork is because I like to be pretty transparent about what we're doing and to speak pretty openly about what's happening. And by filing this paperwork, it gives me the ability to deliver this message to you. So, funny story, when you go to actually file that Form D associated with Rule 506C, you have to indicate how much you're fundraising. Actually, there's a variety of different options. And just for shits and giggles, we were about to indicate that we were raising something like $1 trillion. And my attorney advised me that that was a bad idea and would look like we were giving the middle finger to the SEC. So, with this context, I want to bring up a tweet that I saw the other day. It was from a Flippening listener who had commented that they listened to almost every single episode of this podcast and only recently realized that nomics.com, spelled Nomics.com, is a website that is an aggregator and that we provide a cryptocurrency market data API. So if you're like that listener and you haven't checked out what we're doing, please do go to Nomics.com. If you're a developer, please check out our API. Our biggest advocates for our API are developers. And finally, if you're an exchange or an OTC desk operator, we would love to talk about doing a deep data integration with you. Since I am in pitching mode, we've recently had a number of really fantastic advertisers come on board. You'll be hearing from them in the future, but please know that the kind of content we produce is not cheap. It is not free. And one of the kindest and most helpful things that anyone can do for this kind of content, if they like to see it produced, is to sponsor a show. We don't think this is a charity. Our average episode over the long run is getting 50,000 plus downloads. This podcast gets a lot of attention, especially from a very niche group of people, which is institutional investors, and we think it's well worth the money. Hope you'll consider it. So with all of that established, I want you to know without a shadow of a doubt that the Flippening podcast is coming back. We have received rave reviews about our security token documentary. It was a lot of work we put in, well over 100 hours to make that happen. And during that process, we learned a lot of things. I think we learned a lot about the workflow for creating this type of long-form, highly editorial content. So in subsequent episodes, you're going to hear mini documentaries about a variety of topics, and we hope you like the content, but we are indeed coming back with a vengeance. So that's it. You'll hear from us next Thursday or Friday when we release the newest and latest episode of Flippening. Thanks for bearing with us during this intermission as I go and create a bunch of solid partnerships for Nomics. If you're itching to communicate with this community, check out our Telegram group at nomicstelegram.com. We look forward to being in touch. We've got a lot of really exciting things happening. I know on the surface, at least, it looks like we are simply a data feed API and an aggregator like many of the others that exist. But the long game and the deeper play is pretty intense and I believe pretty compelling. All right, that's it for now. See you next week. Take care. That's it for this week. To sign up for our free crypto investing newsletter, listen to other episodes, or get the show notes from this episode, please visit flippening.com. I also invite you to check out the startup that funds this podcast, Nomics, spelled Nomics, at nomics.com. Finally, if you got value from the show, the biggest thing you can do to help us out is to leave a 5-star review with some comments and feedback on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening, and see you next week.